50s, in some countries as high as 70%. But one of the biggest data points when it comes to macro for me is that out of every 5,000 naira running through this country, 1,000 is agriculture. Out of every 5 million running through the economy, 1 million is agriculture. That's 20% the size of the entire economy. And if you put that into perspective, looking at every other sector you have, from telecoms to banking to trade to manufacturing to oil and gas, it gives you a spectrum of how significant it is for us as a country and our survival. One of the greatest advantage that we have as Nigeria, both from a food security standpoint, but also from a agribusiness commercialization standpoint, is that we're situated in a part of the world where we have multiple ecological zones, and that supports a lot of different crops. So all the way from grains in the north central, all the way to the north, to the derived savanna in the southwest, to tubers, tree crops, export crops like cocoa, cashew, and the likes in the south and the north central. So we have a very wide variety, and we can support rainfall as well as temperature, sunshine also supports the timing for us. When I look at this, and there's some research we've done at Apex, if you think about it, today, most of our crops, particularly the staple crops, come from the north central towards to the north. 60-70% is what most data comes from. The grains, for instance, come between states, the north central and the north. But if you really think about it, the southwest and some of the south should actually be the Brazil of West Africa, because we have the water, we have the soil, we have the climatic conditions that support it, we have the skills, but guess what we don't have? The equipment. So in the north, it's easy because it rains for about 5 months, just enough for you to plant the crop. When you're harvesting, it's dry, so you can dry in the normal conditions, and then it gets dry enough to store. But in the south, you have a longer rainfall. So if you're harvesting, you have to have a combined harvester, you have to move it into a dryer, and then you have to move it into a silo. So if we had that massive infrastructure, the parcel between, Southern Kwara to at least up until Ijebu, in through Epe, across, through the Delta Edo, all the way, will be your Brazil for West African crops. So that just puts it in context that we've not explored so much more. And if you look at the fabric of the country too, you will see that those centers, that's where you have most of the farm settlements that was set up in the 70s to leave this potential, but we've left it for 4 decades without further developing it. Hunger in abundance. Next slide, please. So the lower slide isn't showing very well, but just to put it here, so we have a deficit of about 1.8 million metric tons of maize. So for the country, Honorable Commissioner, welcome. Protocol, do you want to? Okay. We have welcome Honorable Commissioner of Agriculture for Lagos State. Please round up. Our landlords are here, so we have to recognize. Thank you very much for being with us. It's always a pleasure. So we do have a shortfall of 1.8 million metric tons of maize in the year. If you look at demand and supply, as a country, that is 45 days of food for that crop not available. If you look at it from the food and beverage and the poultry sector, that is 20% of their need missing. That is a gap. If you look at wheat, the numbers are significantly much larger. I'll skip that. Soya beans, about 400,000 deficit, but also growing because soya beans has suddenly become an export commodities in the last 4 years. So a lot more of what we produce gets exported, and that is affecting our both protein and oil consumption. Sorghum, a deficit of about a million 500 metric tons. Rice, about 2.4. However, rice is one of those crops where over a 7-8 year period, leading into about 2022 or 2021, we had closed out that gap. We used to have a 5 million metric ton deficit in gap in rice production. And, I think one of the biggest success stories of our era was closing that gap with the rice revolution, the evolution of the dry season farming, and all of that. But slowly, that gap is widening now, and it's not difficult. There was a time where any shop you went to in Edo or Daleko or Okiari, you found Umza rice, you found Stallion, you found Nigerian brands. We are back to the days of, one pallet of Nigerian brands, 3 pallets of Indian brands, then half of a pallet of Thailand. We can't even afford the Thailand brands anymore. So these dynamics are showing, but people are feeling it. People are feeling it. Next slide. People are feeling. If you look at the cereal, no, sorry, go back one more slide. Yeah. So if you look at cereal production is declining. We're seeing improvements in meat and dairy. Dairy is significantly growing, but it's coming from a very small base. So we're not big, but there's been a lot of good work done. So, it seems to be that I think if you look at the current administration's concerted efforts on, the livestock, I think some of those things are showing out. But because we start from a slow base, there's a lot of growth opportunity there. Next slide. I think this just puts numbers to, the challenge we see. But the question is why? Why do we have those gaps? So fundamentally, you start to see the yields. And this is just Nigeria's data. So if you look at our agricultural yields for cereals, it is declining. Maize is down to 2000 from an historic high of about 2002. Most countries, even if you go to Kenya, Kenya would give you about 4.55 on the average. South Africa will give you 8, 7.5. Zambia will give you 6, 7 metric tons per hectare on the average. At FX, we have some operations in East Africa, and what our farmer in Nigeria would get, a good farmer in Nigeria would get about 40 bags. That's 4 tons per hectare in Nigeria. A average farmer in Kenya on an acre, which is less than half of an hectare, will get the same 4 tons. Interestingly, same fertilizer, same outreach and extension adapted to the geography, same chemicals. Guess what the difference is? Seed. The same effort, the same program we run in Nigeria, our above average farmer will get 40 bags to 45 bags on an hectare. In Kenya, on an acre, our above average farmers will get 40 to 45 bags on an acre. Same OCP, NPK, same urea, same Bayer or Syngenta CPPs. The primary variance being the quality of seeds that is available to support these farmers. So those are some of the root cause challenges, but it's similar across board. We can see, except for rice where yields are increasing, almost all the other staple crops we see yields are declining. Next slide. And I think this is the question of why now? Why is this urgent? Outside of Lagos State and a few other, we see that the food crisis is pinching very, very hard. The red shows very high levels of food insecurity, and this is 2024 data. So this was at the peak of price hikes. It's an annual report. 2025 data has not been published, but my expectation is that about half of what is red now will be amber, and a number of what is on the darker side will be closer to green now, because there is a bit more affordability for a number of food substitutes, at least between 2025 till now. Harvest have also improved a bit. Then you have this price lull, but then that creates in economics, the pregnancy syndrome, like what's going to happen in the next 18 months. Will farmers go back to farm this May, June? What percentage would we expect? There's an expectation that, particularly with the current ongoing war, the cost of energy, urea is done from gas. So if crude oil is at 133, growing almost 100%, urea price will go by that same 100%. And that goes into the fertilizer prices against our upcoming planting season. So what will the impact be? What are we doing to manage or ameliorate this likely risk? What is that supply chain ready to support that on the table? We have food across the year, across the economic spectrum in the country. Again, I think this is another powerful context slides that put it in context. Also, it shows a long-term strategy, the impact of a longer-term strategy. So over 10 years, taking Nigeria, Egypt, and South Africa as comparison, our population is significantly more, but country in the north, a country in the middle, and a country in the south, and looking at use of plant nutrients. So if you look at the slide to the right, soil nutrients, phosphorus, then potassium and nitrogen. The nitrogen slide shows a big picture. The green that you almost cannot see is Nigeria's volume, and Egypt is the red. If you look at phosphorus, and the interesting thing is that we are the largest producer of nitrogen, which is urea in the country. India and Brazil buy a significant percentage of their urea from us in Nigeria. We're producing about between 4 to 6 million tons. We have about 6 million tons in store capacity. We're producing over 4 million, but we're using less than 250,000. So you see, and it's, you see that if you look at that's just Nigeria, right? Urea, the green is urea. Then you see the decline in usage, but then that's also exchange rate, right? So once your exchange rate, it becomes so super profitable to export than to sell it local, and you see that decline there. But also general fertilizer usage is going back about 5-6 years to where we were, half a decade ago, which is also not good, because every day the population increases, food consumption increases, dietary pattern increases. So that's generally the state of the input space. How are the farmers? So we've gone through how are the consumers feeling it from a food hunger. The situation is significantly better than 2024, but not where we want it to be. My driver can buy a plate of food for 1,000 naira in VI. Even the mama, the cost of a single egg at cost is 300 naira. So if it's 6,000 naira divided by 30, 200 plus. So if it's boiled and put on protein, it's 500 naira. So a plate of food with just one egg is 2,000 naira. for a driver that earns 90,000 in a month or 100,000. So that's the consumption side. We've looked at what it looks like in terms of the industrial opportunity and what the gaps are, the input usage, and what's the primary driver of this price and availability challenges. But what are the farmers saying? Next slide. So, and these are from a primary data that we do at FX, where every year we survey about 50,000 farmers plus or minus on, what crop did you use last year? What crop did you plant this year? What volume of fertilizer did you use? How much land did you use? And how that sort of model it to say what likely impact is for the year. So 62% of farmers in this last harvest, this last planting season, used lower inputs than the previous year. So if you, out of every 100 farmers you call, 62% of them said, I use less fertilizer or less seeds or less CPPs compared to previous year. We've seen that from the aggregate number, but that's what farmers are saying individually. If you look at the trend over the last 3 years, same data, same survey, you will see that I think improved seeds is what has sort of improved a bit in terms of usage. Fertilizer has been a bit sticky, but almost other parameters, has been almost on the decline in terms of how much, whether they've used more, percentage that have used more versus percentage that have used less of it. So that's sort of, where we are and starts to predict what is going to come up. Next slide. Next. I think, two corollaries from this slide. So one of, the great things that have improved, if you look at the input spectra, is mechanization, right? Mechanization from a point of first government policy and action. There's been a lot of budgets, a lot of mechanization, but, and this is replicable at federal and subnational level where there's a lot more investment in. And I think that is a useful context considering, you and I in the room here, investing in agriculture in one form or the other. And we can say this both from the extreme of tractors being bought at the federal level with Bank of Agriculture, some states also having the program, the Lagos State's investment in food storage, modern markets, bringing farm produce closer to consumers across the states, logistics as well. Then also, climate-friendly production. So the expansion of usage of things like greenhouses, modern farming is increasing significantly. And that's supporting and augmenting a lot of the difference. So, in my view, if the trend continues and is further supported, in 2-3 years, we probably would not have things like tomato and pepper being seasonal crops anymore. Historically, they've always been, there's a time tomato is 40,000 per basket, there's a time it's 6,000 per basket, and highs and lows. In 3-4 years, that may become something of the past if the trend around modern climate farming continues. The impact of logistics, which is about 15%. So for every bag of produce you buy in Lagos coming from the north, you've paid 15 to 20% on transport costs, right? So with modern practices in the south, we start to, and then more production in the south with climate or, mechanized farming, we will start to see, some of those gains, and then more jobs and more entrepreneurial opportunities. So I think, in between all of these challenges are also opportunities for us to reflect and say, how could we build solutions to fix and address? Next. So in summary, root costs are down to, you know, credit, a number of agri-tech companies that have opened and scaled in the last 4 or 5 years, issues of identity challenges, not being able to, follow on and recover a number of credits, have been a recurring challenge that we've seen, and that has affected the support ecosystem that was moving a lot of the inputs in the hands of farmers, in the last 7 or 8 years. And this is true for both governments, but even private capital as well. Logistics issues is a big challenge. Transportation costs have been increasing. At least in my 15 years of grain trading, cost of transports for a ton of maize have moved from about 3,000 naira to today 60,000 naira. So maize price in 2012, 2013 was 37,000 plus 3,000 transport to get it 40,000. Today, maize price is 300,000 plus 65,000 to get it down to Lagos. Same distance, 15 years in between. Then we have the demand. The market dynamics is also a big challenge that is sort of local now, and this is also induced around policy, but it's a bit beyond policy. If we look at just pure data, right? Most of the rhetoric that we have and the narrative we have is that food imports and the government's import policy is what has affected prices to a point where almost everybody that have produced in the last 12 months is in the water. They're losing money, depending on the crop, from 50-60% to, in some crops, maybe 15-20% loss. But it's a bit beyond that, and data doesn't fully support this. Okay, check timing. So, government imported aggregates 500,000 tons. 500,000 tons of maize and wheat. About 200,000 of that has been sold already. The remaining is still around over this from the June 24 till date, right? So this time frame. So that's the volume that imported by governments. Only about 40% has been sold to the market. So that's not enough in a country that we use these grains combined 17, 18 million metric tons of these particular grains combined. Total imports from the private sector, mostly between June and December 2024, give it 3-4 million metric tons. Wouldn't they have used almost all of that in 2025? So the argument is, why is the demand so weak? But if you trace it really back, the driver that used to buy a plate of rice now buys biscuits for, those are some of the transitions that we are seeing, in fact, in demand. So it may not be as transient as we expect it to be. It may be something that would have to live with for a few years, which means that, we really need to look at production cost and how we want to drop production cost such that prices still fall within a point where demand can start to grow. Next slide. So mechanization is one of the best, part of, this last 2 years. Mechanization, including both climate smart and more mechanized farming. Seeds being the biggest challenge. Fertilizer also kind of following that trend. So this needs to be improved. We need to have different policies that support reducing the cost and making access wider. And particularly supporting youth across the spectrum of the country to be able to have access to these tools. Financing, we've moved from very subsidy-focused regimes to very commercial-focused regimes, and we need a blend, right? So there's been loan programs in the past. They've moved to subsidies. We've moved subsidies to almost grants, right? So we need to continually use a blend where a farmer can come in from either a grant or a subsidy over 2 years, build his own capital, move into a semi-commercial loan, move into a commercial loan. So it's not one or the other. But in a lot of the policy conversations, we always hear this one is good, this one is bad. We continually need a blend of all. Um, here is also to make an advocate. The middleman is not the bad man. The middleman, thank you, my brother. Because a lot of the financial cushion and absorbing the stress are from aggregators, players that play in the middle. But when we label them as bad and we move them all out, we start to see the kind of shocks that we are seeing. You start the season with prices too low, farmers are selling products at a loss. 4 or 5 months within that same season, the prices jump so high, the farmer come back to buy it as food 3 times the price he sold it. So those are the kind of things that we start to see when we label the middleman as bad. Lastly, storage, strategic food reserve, market access, and I think this one is where our commissioner is showing a shining example across the country. I don't know if everybody has seen some of the things that we've seen in terms of the investments in storage, and it's a 5-year strategic plan that is being executed since she started, saying that Lagos is not going to be the biggest. Please, because it's one thing to have a one feed all policy. It's one thing to be strategic about your choices of how you play. Lagos is not going to be the biggest producer of rice, so it's going to form alliances with states that have abundance of land and cheaper labor to produce. But Lagos must be able to store and warehouse enough food to feed its citizens. So that was, my 2 sentence summary of the big strategic document that was done. And a lot of those investments have been done for some of us around Mushin. I know there's one also on the island after Shongotedo. Yeah, I've heard this, I've not seen that one. So, but I've seen it online. So there are a number of these things that have shown taking foods closer to farmers, a lot of youth initiatives in the pipeline. So I think there's no better place to stop than here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was a very, very wonderful one. I'm hoping everybody learned something because I, for one, did learn. And one thing I would say is that we're in this room to have that conversation. And please, when we're done having the conversation, let's not leave it at this room. Let the conversation not end here. Let's as well go out there and do the work. Please let's give him another round of applause. Thank you very much. Now, while he was giving his keynote address, we had very honorable people step into the room. I would like to give honor to whom honor is due, starting with the Honorable Commissioner for Agriculture and Food Systems, Mrs. Abishola Olushanya. I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that. Please let's give her a round of applause. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. And we also had the special advisor to the governor on agriculture and food systems, Dr. Luwarotimi Fashola. Please let's give him a round of applause as well. Thank you. And also the permanent secretary and Ministry of Agriculture and Food Systems, Mr. Emmanuel Awudu. Let's give him a round of applause. Thank you so much for honoring our invitation and showing up in the room. That is giving me more confidence that we would not stop here, but we would go out and do the work. Now, to our next thing on the list of what to do, the agenda, is the Goodwill message. And that is going to be given by Dr. Oluwarotimi Fashola. Please let's give him a round of applause. He's a special advisor to Lagos State Governor on Agriculture and Food. Clap for him now.
Thank you. Well, thank you very much. And thank you, Mr. Ayodeji Balogun, for ending the way you ended because it makes my job a bit easier. I can now start Lagos Day from that point. So thank you so much. We would like to really give you a warm welcome from our governor because without him, whatever Lagos State is doing in agriculture would not have been possible. He's our leader. He's the one that is committed to building a resilient, food secure Lagos that continues to drive the meaningful transformation that we can see and we will continue to see in Lagos State. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here and thanks you for listening to us. I'll just quickly read a few speech that I've written just as a goodwill message. Um, I'll also like to thank Business Day for putting this together. It's actually a conference that is dear to us, and the particular theme for this year, from seed to feed, strengthening agricultural inputs for food security, is very, very timely and it's germane. It reminds us of a simple but powerful truth. Food security does not begin with harvest. And just like Mr. Ayodeji had said, you would see it's a whole chain reaction. It begins much earlier with the seed, with the quality of inputs, with the access to knowledge, the efficient system, most importantly, even the farmer. If the farmer does not have what it takes to combine all the inputs together, he wouldn't get it as well. So in Lagos State, what we're doing is that we would want to harness all these issues together. We know that we're a state with very small land, so we're not going to challenge Niger State. But like it has been said, we're doing some things different so that people in Lagos can be fed. So over the past few years, Lagos State has taken deliberate and bold investment of over 400 billion into infrastructure in agricultural space. It's a policy that is deliberate, it's ambitious, and we are very, very tenacious about doing it. One of it is the rice mill. It's widely recognized as the largest and the most functional rice mill. It's actually the only rice mill that is owned by a state government that is functional. And we pride ourselves with the fact that we challenge the private sector to the efficiency and the functionality of that rice mill. Apart from that, for those who have not seen it, we have the food hub, the Lagos Logistic and Food Hub in Keto is equally the largest in Africa. And by the time the first phase is completed this year, it will store, both for cold storage and for dry storage, food capacity that will be able to ensure that we have food for Lagosians for 3 to 6 months by the time we finish. So it's no joke that we are deliberate about each and everything that we're doing. Last year, the rice mill actually processed 500,000 bags of 50 kg. And that's no small measure. It's not just a statistics. It represents meal at the table, job creation, stronger steps towards self-sufficiency for our nation, and a bit of a price stability to a very large extent. And it's still selling, and it's still producing. It's an infrastructure we recognize and we transform from the start to the bottom. Our farmers remain the heart of everything that we do. And that's why the initiative that probably you had seen and heard about, the 500 billion naira Produce for Lagos initiative, it's a guarantee scheme. It's a funds guarantee for production and for accessing markets in Lagos. It ensures that farmers produce reaches the market in Lagos, not outside Lagos. And in it, we had also, it deploys 150 LPG powered logistic trucks. Can be reduced and stabilized. And waste is also curtailed because some of these trucks are actually cold storage trucks. So when we're picking tomato, for example, from the north to Lagos, it is kept as good as if it's just from the farm. Apart from this, we also have the Onje Eco Food Farmer Subsidy. And the Onje Eco Food Farmer Subsidy actually dealt with inputs to rice production, vegetable production, poultry, piggery, and fish farming. So that these are core areas of production and processing in Lagos that are essentials to us, so that we can cap the prices or stabilize the prices of these commodities. That's why we have the OJ Eco Farmers Subsidy Program. In addition, even with very few lands that we have secured 1,500 hectares of land in Badagry and nearby Ogun State for rice production, so that we can at least have an input into our raw materials that we are doing. We're not leaving the young farmers and the young entrepreneurs out of what we do in Lagos. We have a program that is Agriton. And Agriton is an empowering young Nigerians, young Lagosians in the agricultural space to see agriculture as a business rather than as a tradition. And in it, 250 million naira grants had been disbursed to various agri-entrepreneurs, innovators, and to those who are reshaping and reimaging agriculture through technology, creativity, and enterprise. All of these efforts point to one clear objective: ensuring that food is available, accessible, affordable to all Nigerians throughout the year. It is therefore very important for us that we continue in this trajectory and in this space, so that it is available, accessible, and comfortable for everybody. I would like to thank you for trusting in us and believing in us. Because at the end of the day, achieving food security is not the responsibility of the government alone. It requires collaboration between the public and the private sector, development partners, researchers, and of course the farmers. We have to enhance everybody together. As we reflect on this year's theme, let us remember, strengthening agricultural input is not just a technical discussion. It is a strategic imperative. It is how we secure livelihood, stabilize economy, and nourish our people. The Lagos we desire, the Lagos where food systems are efficient, inclusive, and sustainable, is not just a distant future. It is something we are intentionally building step by step, ground up. Thank you for being part of this. We believe in you and we believe that we can do it. Ìgbéga ìpínlẹ̀ Èkó, àjùmọ̀ṣe gbogbo wa ni. Thank you so much.
Thank you very, very much. Yes, I do believe in us, and I believe that we can do it. We can make Lagos agriculture even better than the whole of Africa is, and globally, go global at the end of the day. Please let's give him another round of applause. Thank you very, very much. And right about now, we're going straight into the governor's address. And I would like to welcome on stage His Excellency Baba Jide Oluwasanlo-Olu. I'm going to do that again. Babajide Oluson. Wow. So Olushola Sonwo-Olu. My goodness, I'm mixing up a lot of Yoruba today. And he's going to be ably represented by Mrs. Abisola Olusonya. Okay? Okay. The Honorable Commissioner of Agriculture for Food and Food Systems. Please let's give her a round of applause.
Thank you very much and good morning, everybody. Particularly to Mr. Frank Aigbogun. I don't see him in the room. I was here last year myself, Dr. Fashola, the PS, some members of the Ministry of Agriculture and Food Systems, and we had a good time. So to have been invited again this year, I think it's a pleasure, it's an honor. And it's also good to see faces that are very well entrenched in the agricultural space, starting from Mr. Ayodeji Balogun, who is a brother, my classmate, my good friend. And so to be in the same TED before me, I think, or maybe just about the same time, actually, it's actually fantastic. So when he said, I have spent 15 years, in this food grains business, I had to turn to Dr. Fashola to say, short pay 15 years, ni, because thinking back to our LBS days, I believe we have representatives from the Lagos Business School here. So we are alumni, whatever you call it. And we didn't start off being in the agri space. I studied architecture. Ayodeji was doing something entirely different. So it is Lagos Business School that actually opened us up to the agricultural space. And him doing so well, leading Apex, one of the leading aggregator companies in Nigeria, I don't think we could be prouder. And to everybody in the room as well, I mean, my colleagues, Dr. Oluwarotimi Fashola, you can see the titles he has beside his name: PhD, FMNI, CICC. In fact, I was just looking at it like, Dr. Fashola has all of these accolades, so it's actually fantastic because we have a round peg in a round hole. When you talk about Dr. Rice, his particular PhD degree is actually in rice studies. So it tells you that in Lagos we are very deliberate, we are very intentional. And then obviously to the permanent secretary as well, Mr. Emmanuel Fatai Audu. He looks like a banker. You can stand up so that we can all see you again. He doesn't look like your regular civil servant. So it just goes to show that, I mean, we mean business, in the Ministry of Agriculture. And then we have African Farmer Mogaji. I don't know if many of us know AFM. That's what some of us call him. I just saw that he's also the CEO of Agbado Value Nigeria Limited. I know his business to be something else. So except he decided to change it so that he can champion the Agbado revolution. So, but it's always a fantastic, pleasure to be in the same room with him because we have so many things in common. And I think more importantly to the Business Day team, I mean, putting this event together year in, year out. When you consider what Business Day does or the sector it's in, and you think about them championing this revolution happening in the agri space, it also tells you that they understand the place of agriculture in the Nigerian economy. You would assume that Business Day would be more focused on the banking sector, telecommunications sector, and things like that, or oil and gas. But since they choose to deliberately put agriculture at the forefront, it tells you that Business Day understands the business of the day. Agriculture is the key. Agriculture is the bedrock. Whether you're in oil and gas, if you don't eat, you cannot function. Whether you're in telecommunication sector, if your guys that are going to put up the rig or whatever it is they do in the telecommunication space, if they don't eat, they will faint, they will die, they won't be able to do anything. If you're a doctor and you don't eat, sorry, let doctor go and choke you abere, you are gone. So it just tells you that Business Day understands, and so we really appreciate them for that. Mr. Kola Masha just walked into the room. I'm also a fan of his. I remember during our Lagos Business School days, he was one person we had always heard about, Babangona, Babangona. And for me, I'd always like, I would love to work at Babangona. So I actually applied, but I never got a response. So maybe it was a good thing because fortunately for me, after our LBS days, Olam recruited me. I left the country and here we are today. So, Mr. Kalamasha, sorry, your loss, my gain. But it's always a pleasure to be around you, to have you in the room because you are also one of the pioneers within this space. And to everybody here, we just want to say a massive thank you, like Dr. Fashola had said, for trusting in us, for believing in us. Even if you don't believe, Sha, we'll show you evidences of what we can do. And I think that Mr. Babajide Olushola Sonolu has actually been very magnanimous, particularly to myself, to the special advisor, for giving us the opportunity to serve. To be honest with you, it's been nothing short of a lot of work, a lot of grueling. I don't know what else to coin it as, but I think this has been one of the most difficult times of our lives, but it has also been one of the most rewarding. Rewarding in the sense that I don't think you will ever have a platform as big to be able to give of yourself. And so we really appreciate him for giving us that opportunity. And in that light, I stand here representing him today. So you permit me to just quickly read his speech. It won't be long, but I promise you that you'll be able to take away something from it. So let me begin by commending Business Day newspaper a publication that has for over 2 decades stood at the forefront of Nigeria's economic discourse. It has consistently drawn attention to sectors that matter most, none more so than agriculture. Though through its sustained thought leadership, Business Day has helped elevate agriculture as a pillar of national growth, and today's conference continues that legacy. This is a platform not just for dialogue, but for direction as we shape the future of food, productivity, and prosperity in our country. When we talk about agriculture, we often picture the farmer in the field, planting, tending, and harvesting. But behind that simple image lies a very complex system. A system that begins long before the farmer steps on the land and continues long after the harvest is done. That is why the theme of this conference, From Seed to Feed, is so important. It reminds us that food security is about everything that makes farming possible. If the seed is poor, the harvest will be poor. If the soil is weak, the yield suffers. If the farmer lacks tools or access to finance, production cannot grow beyond subsistence. Feeding a nation begins with strengthening the systems that support the farmer. Across Nigeria, we face a clear reality. Food prices are rising, demand is increasing, and pressure on our agricultural system is growing. And this affects every home, every market, and every table, especially in a city like Lagos. Lagos may not be the largest agricultural state. In fact, we are the smallest state in the country, but it is also one of the country's biggest consumers of food. Every day, millions of people depend on a steady, reliable supply of food entering the city, making us deeply connected to the success or challenges of agriculture nationwide. Nigeria has vast arable land, a growing population that represents both demand and workforce, and increasing interest from investors and technology providers in the agricultural sector. These factors present both urgency and opportunity, and they inform our approach, which focuses on three key areas: innovation, partnerships, and value chain development. First, innovation. Agriculture today must move beyond traditional methods. Technology is no longer optional, it is essential. From precision farming to data driven irrigation, from digital marketplaces to supply chain tracking, innovation helps farmers produce more with less. Young people are entering the sector as agri-tech entrepreneurs, logistics providers, and food processors. And supporting this generation is investing in the future of agriculture. Second is partnerships. Government alone cannot solve the challenges of agriculture. I remember Dr. Fashola mentioned that. And the private sector, development partners, financial institutions, and research bodies must collaborate. Conferences like this bring stakeholders together, creating opportunities for investment, collaboration, and shared solutions. And if we are serious about food security, we must break silos and build partnerships that deliver results. Third is value chain development. Agriculture does not end at the farm. Production, processing, storage, transportation, and distribution, every stage matters. One of our major challenges is post harvest loss, and food is produced but often not efficiently stored or transported, leading to waste, higher prices, and reduced availability. Strengthening the entire value chain is as important as improving production. We must also address access. Smallholder farmers make up the majority of Nigeria's agricultural workforce, yet many lack quality inputs, financing, and market linkages. Access to affordable credit, improved extension services, and stronger market networks must become priorities. We also have climate resilience as another factor. Unpredictable weather patterns, flooding, drought, and environmental degradation threaten agricultural productivity. Investment in climate smart agriculture in the way of improved seed varieties, sustainable irrigation systems, and eco friendly practices are essential. The Future of Agriculture Conference gathers key players across the agricultural ecosystem to explore strategies that improve productivity, strengthen our supply chain, and support sustainable practices. But conversations alone are not enough. We are always conversing in this country. We need to start acting. We must live here with clarity. with commitment and readiness to act. Government has a role, we have a role in policy, in infrastructure, and enabling environments. The private sector also has a role in investment, innovation, and efficiency. And financial institutions have a role. I know FCMB is in the building, in making funding accessible. And citizens have a role in supporting local production. So when you go to your market and you are buying from Iyasilifa, please don't kill Iyasilifa by trying to reduce her price as much as possible. Because when you go to supermarkets like Ebano, you pay 3 times that price and you don't haggle. So be gentle on Iyasilifa in supporting local production and valuing the agricultural system that feeds us. The journey from seed to feed requires coordination, patience, and sustained effort. But it is a journey we must take seriously because food security underpins health, stability, and economic growth. Get agriculture right, and many other national priorities naturally will fall into place. So let me once again commend the Business Day newspaper for its foresight and leadership in organizing this conference over the years. You have continued to provide a credible platform for policy dialogue and practical solutions, a contribution to agriculture that does not go unnoticed. Thank you and God bless you all. Igbega Ikmileko, Ajumoshe Gbogbo wa ni.
Please, a standing ovation for His Excellency Dr. Babajide Sanwo-Olu, ably represented by the Commissioner of Lagos. All right. Now we're going to do a photo session. I would like to call on the Commissioner of Agriculture and Food Systems, ma'am. Please come up the stage. Also, the Special Advisor to the Governor on Agriculture and Food Security. Please, a standing ovation. I mean, a wonder. What's happening to you today? Please, a round of applause, please. I would also like to call on the Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Agriculture and Food Systems, Mr. Emmanuel Audu. Thank you very much, sir. Also, Mr. Lolade, please, sir. Mr. Ayodeji Balogun, please join us up on the stage. Please, a round of applause, please. Thank you very much. Please, a round of applause. Thank you. All right, we're going to be going to the next on the agenda, which is the panel session. And this is titled Driving Access to Quality Inputs and Innovation, right? And it's going to be anchored and moderated by Ozioma. Ozioma, please don't let me butcher your name this morning, the CEO of Eden O Foods. I'll be calling everybody on the panel as well. I'll just read a brief of their bio and I'll invite them to the stage. Okay, so let me start first with Uzioma. Uzioma is the founder of Eden Acres Integrated Organic Farms, a farm-to-table agribusiness dedicated to delivering premium fresh produce while empowering smallholder farmers. Through our tech-enabled platform, Freshbox by Eden, she has provided traceable agricultural superfoods to urban households and the hospitality sector, ensuring both quality and nutritious value. Passionate about building sustainable systems, Uzioma champions agricultural ingredients on local and global stages. Our leadership and entrepreneurship acumen have been recognized through multiple accelerator and fellowship programs, including JIZ Routes to Market, AWE, Scaling Export Program, Leading Africa's Women in Food Fellowship, WIRE, and the list goes on. Reflecting on our commitment to innovation, impact, and scaling Africa's agri-food potential, please make welcome Uzioma to the stage. Please, let's give her a round of applause, please. Hi, Uzioma. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome. Yes. Absolutely. Okay. I'll also be calling none other than Mr. Kola Masha, but let me read his bio, sir. Kola Masha is a visionary agri leader and the co-founder and CEO of Babangona, a high-impact social enterprise transforming rural livelihoods across northern Nigeria. He's driven by a mission to break the circle of poverty and violence. He has built an innovative platforms that empower smallholder farmers, particularly at-risk youth, to become profitable agricultural entrepreneurs. Under his leadership, Babangona has supported over 200,000 farmers and have created more than 350 jobs. Please give him a round of applause, please. He is a globally recognized leader. Kola is the first for-profit social enterprise founder to receive the prestigious Skoll Awards for social entrepreneurship, reflecting on his impact-driven approach to scalable development. Please make welcome Kola Masha to the stage. Thank you very much, sir. Morning. Okay. I will be calling Dr. Anthony Job. I believe he's here. All right. Just 1 second. Let me read his bio. Dr. Anthony is a dedicated plant scientist and an accomplished plant breeder with extensive experience in crop improvement and agronomy. He began his career at the International Institute for Tropical Agriculture in Ibadan, where he served as a research associate in maize breeding for over 6 years. Currently, he leads the agronomy and seed production units at Flour Mills of Nigeria, driving research commercialization of high-yield, climate-smart, nutrient-dense crops such as maize, sorghum, soya, and wheat. He's a second-generation agriculturist. Dr. Job is actively driven to contribute to Nigerian seed systems through leadership, national and international engagement. Please make welcome Dr. Job to the stage. Thank you very much, sir. Welcome. All right. The next panelist is Adekunle Esther. She here? Okay, yes. All right. Miss Adekunle Esther is a distinguished agricultural professional with experience in agricultural extension and rural development. She holds a bachelor's and master's degree in agricultural extension and rural development from the Federal University of Agriculture, Abeokuta. Her experience spans major donor-funded projects and building inclusive value chains that enhance productivity and market access for smallholder farmers. She's a recognized thought leader. She contributes to national and international discourse on climate-smart agriculture and food systems. Please make welcome Ms. Adekunle Esther. And also joining us virtually is architect Kashim Ibrahim, right? Architect Kasim Ibrahim was born in Katsina, is a distinguished architect turned agribusiness leader with a remarkable career spanning multiple sectors. He earns both BSc and MSc degrees in architecture from Ahmadu Bello University and has founded consulting firm Kashim Associates in 1987. He has held influential roles, serving as the president of the Poultry Association of Nigeria, All Farmers Association of Nigeria, and currently the president of Nigerian Agribusiness Group from 2024 to present. He chairs the board of trustees of National Agricultural Foundation of Nigeria and the Agricultural Trade Group at NASIMA. Please make welcome virtually architect Kashim Ibrahim. Thank you. Over to you, Ozioma. Oh, yes. Okay. Also want to welcome Amaka Ajide. She's a distinguished food scientist, an agricultural consultant, and a social innovator and clinical physiology with over 2 decades of experience in food production and 15 years in organic agriculture. As the founder of Amicable Modulus Farm, she has successfully established over 28 commercial farms and over 200 backyard and urban gardens in Nigeria. She's a leading woman in the agricultural space and also a member of the Institute of Chartered Economics of Nigeria. Amaka has earned several multiple international recognitions for her impact. She's also the author of Gold in the Bush, promoting economic potential in agricultural organic systems. Please make welcome Amaka. Amaka, welcome.
All right, thank you very much. I'm grateful to be here, and I have a fire panel. Thank you, Mr. Kolamasha, Mr. Anthony Joshua, Amaka, and Esther. Oh, I said, Anthony Jacob, please. It's a fire panel, and I am excited to. No, he's not the boxer, Anthony Jacob. I'm excited to be moderating this fire panel as a primary producer and processor myself, and I'm glad to be here once again. And I want this to be very engaging, and I'll just ask us questions as it pertains to our company. I'll start with Mr. Kola Masha. Thank you very much, sir, for what you've done with Babangona. I mean, our commissioner applied and you rejected. Why? So you see where she is now. It didn't even come to you. Oh, see, she said her again, your loss. You should take that home. You've made farming very profitable for farmers through market access, and you've created thousands of jobs. And the work you do is amazing. And would like to know how Babangona has developed a model that provides farmers with bundled services, including inputs, training, credits, market access, and how effective this approach has been in improving productivity and farmer income.
Well, thank you very much. Greatly appreciate it. And first and foremost, we've have not done this alone. We've been very blessed to have really incredible partners. Actually, Kudzai Komuniratia is literally, I think, one of the very first people we told about Bawangono when we were just starting. And he was one of the, I think, if not the first, one of the first that actually understood it and saw its potential when we were, how many farmers when you guys first funded us? Yeah, 101 farmers when he first funded us. So fundamentally, everyone in this room has heard that lending to smallholder farmers is high risk. However, $250 million says otherwise. We've deployed as Babangona over $250 million in cumulative financing to smallholder farmers, and thank you. And our default rate is below 1%. Now, oftentimes that number shocks people, but the reason it works isn't magic. It's structure. We don't lend to individual farmers, we lend through trusted farmer leaders, what we call community agri-finance institutions, or CAFIs, who each manage roughly about 100 farmers each. Therefore, when you bundle credit, inputs, training, through that CAFI structure, you get accountability at scale. This isn't just our assessment. Kudzai from FCMB is on the next panel, and FCMB has been financing Babangona for well over a decade now and has directly financed hundreds of our CFIs. So when a commercial bank puts their own capital behind a model for more than 10 years and keeps expanding, that tells you more than any slide deck can. So the results. We're now the single largest maize producing entity in Africa. In our peak season, we serve farmers on 170,000 acres in a single year. To put that in context, if you visualize what one Manhattan looks like in New York City, that's 12 of those. Farmers are doubling their productivity, but here's what people often miss. This doesn't just transform farmers' lives. It fixes broken supply chains that every agro-processor in this room is dealing with. When farmers double their productivity with quality inputs, agro-processors get what they've always wanted: lower costs, higher quality, and reliable supply chains. This is a business model that's profitable for farmers, for banks, and for agro-processors. So let me start with the question that most agro-processors think about here, right? What are your big three headaches? I'll help you answer that, because we talk to a lot of agro-processors and they tell us very similar stories. High cost, low quality, unreliable supply chains for their agri raw materials. Those three headaches have the same root cause: a broken smallholder supply chain, where farmers lack the inputs, the finance, and the support to produce consistently. But what if you could fix all three at the same time? That is exactly what our model does. Most organizations try to build supply chain logistics from scratch when they want to support smallholder farmers. But I often say, it's equivalent of building a road on top of a road that already exists. Our CFI structure is the distribution and aggregation network. Each community agri-finance leader manages that 100 farmers. They're the quality checkpoint, they're the disbursement point, and the accountability layer, all wrapped up in one. Therefore, when farmers in CFI networks receive quality inputs, proper training, and access to finance, they produce more, they produce better, and they produce on schedule. And that means agro-processors sourcing from those CFIs get higher quality produce at up to 10% below market prices, delivered reliably. All three headaches resolved. Now, what makes this scalable? We've taken everything we've built over 15 years and packaged it into a white label platform we refer to as Agri-Finance as a Service, AFAS. Therefore, an agro-processor doesn't need to build our model from scratch. They simply need to do three things. One, stand up a small CFI management team of one university graduate and a handful of field officers. Two, connect to a banking partner like FCMB for direct financing of those CFIs. And three, execute input supply and aggregation as a profitable business. Let me repeat that. As a profitable business. This isn't theoretical. Chinedu here, who we actually from Safari Foods, who we met just last year exactly at this same conference, is on panel 2 today. And she's the first woman-led enterprise replicating the Babangona model. And she's not doing it small. Chinedu is building a cassava supply chain prioritizing women for high-quality cassava flour. This is Safari's first season. They're in the field right now, on track to nearly double farmers' yields and incomes this year. But what's remarkable is the depth of preparation before a single stem goes in the ground. Farmers approved by their own community leaders, verified through credit checks, pre-farm mapping, trained daily, cassava stem varieties already tested in the field for optimal yield. Chinedu has the same three headaches every agro-processor has. She looked at what we built over 15 years the structures, the technology, the depth of operational learning. And in her words, we were humbled. She said, we could never have designed that ourselves. Now, she's solving those headaches and building women-led supply chains while she does it. And Kudzai, who's also on the next panel from FCMBs, has been that banking partner making the work of financing hundreds of CFIs for the decade. So, in a nutshell, that's what we do.
Okay, my note is full. So let's give a round of applause to Mr. Kola. I hope we took Expo. Expo. Two key things he said is build your network, replicate Babangana model. I've already written it. Copy what Chinedu has done, replicate it, and go find a financier. FCMB is in the room, so you already know who to talk to. So thank you very much, Mr. Kola, for sharing. I mean, this was like a mini masterclass. I've written plenty notes, and I'll be connecting with you again beyond here. The second question is going to Dr. Anthony Job. Forgive me for mixing you up with Anthony Joshua, the head of agronomy and seed production at Flour Mills. And I'm really honestly surprised that Flour Mills is doing so much around seed production. It just goes to say how intentional they are about feeding Nigerians. Golden Penny, in fact, I grew up on Golden Penny, is a staple for Nigerian homes. So well done to the work that you do there. And the first question to you is that seeds are often described as the foundation of agricultural productivity. We all agree. From your experience leading agronomy and seed production at Flour Mills of Nigeria, how critical is access to high quality seeds in improving farm yields and food security? And the last part of it is how can Flour Mills scale access to improved seeds and modern agronomy practices? Sorry.
Okay, thank you for that question. Seeds are very basic and very fundamental, and I would say they are the building blocks, for the whole food security, food systems, and all of that. While Ayodeji was speaking, he stressed a situation, with the experience in FX, in which farmers in Kenya are getting like ×2 of the output, following all the other practices, recommendations, all of that, as compared to Nigeria. And why is this? Because, in places like Kenya, Eastern Africa, Southern Africa, they have more developed seed systems. They've been using improved varieties for a very long time. Adoption rate is very high. Seeds could, from my experience, sometimes even from 40 to 100%, even if you follow all the other practices and just use the right seeds. And why is this? Because improved seeds ensure, uniform germination, optimum plant stand, resistance to stresses, drought, tolerance, disease, and all of that, which are important. In terms of even the quality and the quantity, you have varieties that have better, flour content. For instance, we were talking about processing just a few minutes ago. So the importance of seeds can be overemphasized. I remember the commissioner also said, poor seed, poor harvest, right? So based on that, Flour Mills got deliberate about this and, set up the seed unit, which I had. For now, focus crops, wheat, maize, soybean, sorghum. And we've been doing such quite a bit. In the wheat now, we've been in that space for about 7 years. For soybean and maize, just a little over 2 years. But what we're trying to do, how we've been deliberate about this, of course, we already have a common popular brand of fertilizer, which is Golden Fertilizer, which I'm sure most people involved in agriculture are very aware of. And we're leveraging on this network, to ensure that we are able to push seeds also and get to the last mile. We're also setting up farmer hubs across the country where we can improve access, smallholder farmers to these seeds, and currently working on, input bundles also, in which fertilizers are seeds and all of that. Of course, also with complementary agronomy and training. Okay, let me stop there.
All right, thank you very much. So you already said you said farmer hubs. I mean, farmers are plenty in this room. Do you care to mention the hubs so that is it also free? How do you subsidize it? How do they get access to these seeds?
Okay, so basically, we're working with our agro dealers. We have agro dealers, different locations across the country. Um, so now it's, of course, people that sell our fertilizers, are now also going to be selling our seeds. So that way, this goes complementary hand in hand, and that way we're able to get more coverage in
All right,
terms of
thank you. Are
seed.
they subsidized?
No,
Affordability is something that is keeping
affordable.
farmers.
Yes, yes,
Of
they're
course, they're already
affordable.
improved. All right.
Yes,
Thank you
they're
so very
affordable.
much,
Thank you.
Dr. Anthony Job. The next question will go to Adekunle Olubukola, but then Sultry is a pioneer in cassava value chain, and what you do, the work you do is amazing. So I'll say well done. Your MD is not here, but I mean, she's a trailblazer, and we're proud of her in the women community. Sultry International works closely with farmers across its value chain. From your experience coordinating projects, what key factors are necessary to ensure farmers have consistent access to quality inputs and improved farming practices?
Okay, thank you. One of the key factors that ensures farmer to have access to quality input is, like what he just said, we talk about affordability and availability of the seed system. For smallholders farmers, there should be access to improved seed. Not only having access to it, but it must be affordable. Sometimes most of these farmers, they travel several kilometers in order to access this quality or certified feed. And sometimes even they have to wait until another market day. And this translates to late planting. So another factor again is a knowledge gap, knowledge and extension services. For us, having access to input is not enough, but having knowledge, how to go about it, is another thing. For us as Sultry, we train our farmers not only in planting, but we equally train them on good agronomic practices. We train them, we support them with characterization, we support them with mindset orientation, even financial literacy. So for us, we believe that knowledge gap must be filled up for farmers. So it's not enough just to have access, but how to apply the knowledge on their farming practices. The another thing is a strong distribution milestone for these farmers. For us, we believe that the last milestone, the farmer is the last milestone, and the input must get across to the farmers. And of course, farmer cannot have access to this information without the work of extension officers. So there is need for us to strengthen our extension services. I can tell you for free that at Sultry, currently we operate at 80% of extension officers we have in our own organization. And basically, by book, the ratio of extension officers to farmer is ratio 1 to 300. That is by book, but in reality, is ratio 1 to 700, even more. So meaning that these farmers, they don't have access to innovations. They don't know how to go about planting season, the planting method, the planting spacing, and all this translate to whether they are going to have improved yield at the end of the day or not.
All right, thank you so very much. So it means that there's room to hire more extension officers and we can apply.
Of course.
Farmers, are we hearing? So it means that the young people now that are just graduating or serving, I mean, I know you take core members. If it's the ratio of 1 to 700, that's huge, right? It means that there's opening and then you can work with Sultry. And I can promise you that that's an amazing company that you would like to work with. I'll ask you the second question before I move on to the CEO of Amicable Mondale. How have you been able to connect your farmers? Because there's the part of distributing the inputs, but there's also the part of collating harvest. Do you coordinate that yourself? Do you have clusters? I mean, how does it happen? Because cost is something that we all need to contain to be profitable. So how does it work for you?
Okay, thank you. As Sultry, our approach has always been centered around farmer. So we believe in partnership and long-time engagement with farmers. So we have a model we refer to as in-grower and out-grower model. So for us, in-grower, we build a structure around this in-grower and out-grower network, whereby we relate with farmers on daily basis. We support them with characterization, we support them with use of herbicides, we support them with improved fertilizers, and of course, improved seedling. So for us, we've been able to gather the farmers over the time. We put them in a group, we cluster them together, and we have a farm lead. So this farm lead, we arrange meeting with them often. So we deliberate, we talk. If there's any innovation, anything, we have what we refer to as demo plot, whereby we introduce farmer to whatever innovations we are introducing to them. So it makes it easier for us to get the attention of this farmer so that we are not only working around the farmers, even though for us as an organization, we are also a profit-making organization. But that's not is not our own priority. Our priority is to ensure that farmer has access to market. Then indirectly, we are rest assured of the consistent supply of raw material that is coming back to the organization. So to us, it's a win-win affair.
So who handles the logistics in taking all produce from
It's part of the support we've been giving to farmer over the time. Like what I said earlier on, that aside characterization, aside the input being given to farmers, we equally train them on how to go about this. Then we have a logistics aspect of the sorting of the organization, whereby during the harvest, any farmer that doesn't have enough or doesn't have what it takes to transport their produce back to the company, we send our truck over there to assist them in order to deploy the produce back to the organization.
Thank you very much. Cassava growers, sultry is available. Meet them after this session. Thank you very much. The next question is going to Amaka Chukudum Ajide, the CEO of Amicable Mondale, who is a sister and a foremost organic farmer. She's been in the organic system for 2 decades. A 20-year-old child is about to graduate. So please, a round of applause to her. She's doing amazing work. Amaka, your question is, as an agribusiness leader, what are the biggest barriers? Please, I know you're going to kill this question. What are the biggest barriers farmers face in accessing quality inputs, fertilizers, mechanization, services, the whole works? As a smallholder, big people are on this platform. Babangona, flour mill, sultry. Small holder farmers, the ones that really feel the pain, that have to pay out of pocket, those challenges, how have you been able to address it? What are those challenges? Speak now. Bankers are here. Commissioner is here. Talk fast.
Okay, thank you again. One of the biggest challenge that we face is not lack of the input, but lack of input at the right time and at the right place. I will use a personal experience. We had about 62 acres of rice farm in Kogi State and needed to plow it. We use small scale farmers and we aggregate them together. We bring in the input and then we take it back and bring it back for processing. Now to access tractor that will plow this land took us almost 2 months, and it's seasonal. Almost towards the end of the season was where we could gain access. And we are not using irrigation in such area because there was no dam or any river around us. It was a big challenge. And we began to do other changes, and we found out that it's not just this essential services. Getting the right seed. You will cough out this hard-earned money, go to the market to buy seed, and you end up with a fake seed. After planting, your yield is low. And if we can face this reality and challenge, we will not just improve yield, but we will boost out the economy of the nation. So these are the 2 biggest challenges that we face as small-scale farmers. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Our guys are here. Please, I would like us to wrap up quickly so they can start giving us feedback quick. Architect, I'm coming to you now. I don't know if you're still online. I almost skipped you. Architect Kabiru.
I am.
All
I
right,
can hear you.
Thank you very much, sir, for joining us. Thank you for the amazing work you do at the Nigerian Agribusiness Group, diversifying Nigeria's economy away from oil and gas. I think the business of the day is to diversify our economy and face what truly matters. Thank you for the work that you do there. My question to
Thank
you
you.
is, how can Nigeria balance the need for affordable inputs with the imperative to maintain high quality and avoid proliferation of substandard products in the market? But how do you, I know you already speak to stakeholders, how do we make this even more accessible to farmers across the nation? So I'm in the Southwest, and we always claim that we don't get the kind of support, smallholder farmers, that the Northerners get. So how do we balance this out, sir?
Well, I think there is a combination of many, many things that we need to do. First, we should incentivize the private sector to really get involved and to operate optimally. The dependence on government had always been on the national government. I am happy that states like Lagos and a few other states like Niger and all that are doing a lot of work to make sure that we scale our productivity in general in agriculture. And the food system requires that we do that. But we should do that, as both or as the national government and all the sub-national governments and the private sector. We could also use blended finance. We could also utilize businessmen. That is, with agribusiness in mind, people will optimize what they do and they will go out of their way to really look for what they want because they are getting very good returns. Now, this brings me to the reality of Nigeria. I have been working with smallholder farmers from my days as president of Poultry Association to president of All Farmers Association, and now Nigeria Agribusiness Group president. My Kola Masha, I used to know him when he was the chief of staff to Adishina, one of the best ministers of agriculture Nigeria ever had. And he saw an opportunity and he established Babagona from there and I think resigned. And I'm happy that he has impacted the agriculture space in this way. I looked at the time that he had 2,500 farmers. I looked at the time that I went to France with him, looking at what used to be some outfit by now Bayer, I think Monsanto. And a lot of things have happened over time. And I think now he's talking of hundreds of thousands of farmers and a lot of impact in the agri space. We can all do that. And that is the best way to really make Nigeria food sufficient and make it food secure. Now, I don't want to digress too much on this, but let me say the facts as I know them. The intervention of government in terms of reaching out to the smallholder farmers will be assisted by the private sector if the private sector uses those smallholder farmers and smallholder processors as the cannon fodder of their own productivity, i.e., if you look at the man in FX, my dear friend, who has been doing a lot of work on this, is to incentivize those smallholder farmers and small-scale producers to optimize their productivity so that they feed what he does, and he in turn also feeds industry, so that Nigeria does not encourage people to sell whatever they produce in its primary form. We must be able to add value, and we must be able to now bring out the giant in all of us so that we become all businessmen. This is something that is true in the Netherlands, for instance. It's a very small country, but because of agribusiness, it's a giant in the impact of agriculture in the economy is felt all over the world. They are second, I think, to the United States of America in terms of GDP from agriculture. Nigeria has a lot of opportunities. We have very large cultivable and irrigable land, a large population. All we need to do is to get all those things together and get the right kind of enabling environment for people to be able to do that. Now, government has some responsibilities in terms of creating the enabling environment. But we should not just look at the federal government. We should look at the state governments and the local government areas, and especially the local government areas, because agriculture is really, it happens really in the villages and hamlets. If you take the United States, for instance, you go to the maybe around the villages and all that, and you see that's where the production is, and the cottage industries are there, and productivity is enhanced, and the cities now get whatever they want from those areas. This can be replicated in Nigeria, and the farmers will now go out of their way to get seeds that we are talking of, that they are the sine qua non of productivity, and our farmers are not utilizing those seeds because they are not looking in terms of making a kill from their production. The farmer, knowing that he or she would get a lot of returns by using very good seeds and optimizing their productivity, their yields, will go out of their way to do that, and they will even buy, information from people.
Thank you very
When
much,
we
sir.
are always talking about, a lot of extension and all that, extension by government has its place, but extension by even the seed merchant, by the fertilizer merchant, by people like Kola Masha will help, because everybody will put their hand on deck to do something on extension. We should deploy the Internet of Things. A lot of things should happen to make the farmers or the producer aware of what possibilities are there in what they do. And agribusiness will now give us the optimum push to be able to be food secure. And Nigeria's food security will impact African
Yes.
food security. In fact, all of Africa looks up to us to be able to provide food security. We have one market through AFTA. We can
All
get a
right,
lot
sir. Thank you
from that.
very
Thank you.
much. Because we have limited time, I would like to take questions from the audience, but we get it. So all hands must be on deck and ask. So don't just ask from the federal level or the state level. Ask from your local governments, because truly agriculture is grassroots. So you'd have to hold your ward councillors accountable. Go to the local government and ask, and then they can escalate it to the commissioners and to anybody who needs to answer you. So farmers are in this room, and I would really like this to be very open, right, and transparent, and so that we can engage better. So please, we're taking questions. Maestros are on this platform, so please, the man in blue, please, can you pass my microphone? Maybe the first 5 people, but please, our panelists, keep it really short. Our time is almost up, so they don't bounce us out of the stage. Yes. Please, the audience also, please, short questions, key things, so that we can get responses. Big men and women are in this room. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody, once again. And thank you to the panelists and everybody who's there. The name is Orishadari Anthony, formerly Quality Control Manager for Freshmark Shoprite. Now, my questions goes thus. First is the price cost squeeze. We have reports that farmers might scale back production this year because of the high costs. Because, the imports and whatever that came in, a lot of farmers actually lost money this year and last year. So beyond government promises of subsidies, what private sector-led financial innovations like input financing as a service, I'm directing this to Mr. Kola Masha, have been deployed right now to ensure that smallholders didn't abandon their fields in 2026. Second has to do with the quality control. With the rise of fake inputs, how is the panel leveraging on the, what can we do in terms of using digital authentication to ensure that the quality of seeds and chemicals at the last mile matches what was certified at the factory? And lastly, it's about livestock. Currently, we have issues at the level of egg production because of what happened 2 years ago. And it's now coming home to roost now. So, now, what are we doing, or what is the roadmap for localizing the production of high performance genetics in order to reduce our exposure to this issue of forex driven import costs? Thank you very much.
So I'll touch on a couple there. So I think fundamentally, so agriculture is a cyclical business. So typically different commodities have different cycles, 4 years, 6 years, so on and so forth, where you go through this supply and demand where prices move. I think the reality, unfortunately, where we are today is that we're, I think, several additional headwinds, from the Ukraine war, which drove up farmers' production costs because of gas prices. For fertilizer, at the end of the day, is 50% of a farmer's cost of goods. and then coupled with the fact that we had delayed correction of a cycle, which caused the challenge we see now. So I think the short answer to your question is, I think it's expected to see these cycles, and what goes down must go up. So it's not a matter of if it's going to correct; it will correct. It's just going to take a little bit of time. And I think fundamentally, if you take a just look at the 30,000 foot level, today Nigeria has 6 million hectares of maize farms, right? If every farmer on average got the same yield that the average Babangona farmer is getting today, Nigeria would be the fourth largest maize producer on planet Earth, just after the US, China, and Brazil. We would consume, just for maize, 100% of Dangote's entire fertilizer plant production, one of the largest fertilizer plants in the world, just for maize, just on 7% of our arable land. 7%. So I think these times are tough, but they will get better, and we have to keep the long-term view.
Okay, maybe let me talk about the quality assurance for okay. So for seeds, there's this seed codex, which is an initiative of the National Agricultural Seed Council. It's just like this thing you can scratch on pharmaceuticals, where you can text a number and to give you information about the seed, who produced it, variety, and all of that. So that puts some quality or some check in that. For inputs like fertilizers and so, like the Golden Fertilizer brand, we have a barcode in which you can scan and get authentic information. We also changed our bags because we noticed a lot of adulteration, in the system. I think you talked about genetics also. What's being done? Okay, so there's a lot of local R&D efforts. Of course, we have the local, or rather the National Agricultural Research institutes. We also have the international ones like IITA, ICRISAT, and all of them working. Then also from the private sector, like at Flour Mills, we are doing a lot of R&D. I'm developing a lot of varieties, testing them in different parts of the country, and so far the results are very promising. Some of them are at par with the foreign genetics or even better. So just watch the space. In the next 2 years, we should have some really good stuff. Thank you. Okay.
All right, good day, everyone. My name is Ayobola, and I'm an agricultural development professional. I think I was happy to hear you speak about the seed codex. However, I want to ask, especially because I think Mr. Maka also mentioned, going to the markets with hard-earned money and buying fake seeds. What is the level of adoption and awareness around this? Because I've been privileged to actually work with the National Cultural Seed Council on this particular project, but I don't think that we have that level of awareness and adoption. So I want to also understand what are the bottlenecks from the farmers and from the producers, and as well as ways that the end users, for example, Flour Mill, is ensuring that those seeds are actually going through those processes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your question. So it's work in progress. It's not, we're not there yet, but efforts are being made to do that. From the farmers' perspective, to drive adoption, there has to be a lot of demonstration. Farmers believe what they can see, what they can feel, and of course, at that point, they will be the ones to spread the gospel, right? Yes, the government has a big role to play also. The Seed Council, especially in terms of awareness. Yes, don't just buy seeds from the market. Unfortunately, a lot of people do that. There are seed companies that sell seeds, and there are agro dealer shops, markets, and all of that where one can get better quality seeds. Like I said, it's still work in progress. Efforts are in that direction to, in terms of adoption, well, it depends on the crop. Maybe usually 5 to about 30%, depending on the crop, depending on the region. In places like northern Nigeria, talking about a crop like maize, for instance, a lot of farmers actually use improved seeds, right? But of course, in the south, for instance, adoption is still very low. So seed companies also have a big role to play to intensify efforts in publicity, awareness, even online, social media. It's also playing a role. Let me stop there because I'm trying to be fast to save time.
Good morning, everybody. Julius Yeje is my name, MD CEO LVI Food and Farms. I'm young, I'm new in the agri business, under 2 years now. I have a farm in Ekpe, so my first question will go to our honorable commissioner here. No, the panel will answer the second question. Okay, quick one. So, we have a farm cluster at Ekpe, but we don't have access to equipments for the farm clusters to use. You see the northerners, they bring their food from the north. Even with the high logistics cost, their food pricing is equally cheaper than people farming in Lagos because they have access to equipment and the likes. So you are still doing subsistence farming using manpower, which will not give you much yield. So is there any food, how do we have access? We have a lot of farm clusters at the Bay area. Is there any, we know about agri-yes, but we don't have equipment availability at Ekpe. That's my first question. How do we access equipment for farmers? Subsidized rate or whatever, so that we can reduce our farming cost. Then my second question is, I call it farm pricing and financing. The market does not respect your inputs. The prices are almost fixed. Price of okra is 1,500 per kg. If you like, you put 6 million naira fertilizer or you put 1 naira fertilizer. Its prices are fixed. So how do we, experienced farmers, how do you cope with this issue of farm pricing? Because the input, irrespective of the input, the farmers, the output has a fixed price. So over the years, you talk about the farm cycle. So how do you mitigate against such? Thank you.
So I'll take the second question quickly. So I think at the end of the day, it's about finding the right combination to optimize your yield. So average Babangana farmer invests probably 4 to 5 times what the average Nigerian farmer invests in their farm. And for that reason, they're able to get double the profitability. Because at the end of the day, as long as you structure it so that your return is better, and I think the key there is also around ensuring you're investing in the appropriate technology to monitor that return. But I think we are at time.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Kola. Thank you, my amazing panel. Our time is fast spent. We have to leave, so the next panel can come on. I'm sure we got some answers, and Mr. Kola, Dr. Anthony, Esther, and Amaka in the audience. And I think this is also a networking session, so we can meet with them and ask more personal questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. That was a very insightful panel. Please, I would like to call on the editor at Business Day, Mr. Lolade, to come up for a photo session. Please let's give them a round of applause. And once again, I am very excited that every single person in this room is a little bit different from me. I only know how to put seed in the ground and wait for some months or some years for the plants to come out. That's all I know about agriculture. But I'm happy that people here understand the business of agriculture. So next on our agenda, we have a presentation by Coronation. I hope that video is ready. Please let's sit quietly and watch this presentation. Thank you. Right after that, we'll go on to the second panel.
In 2023 and 2024, Coronation Merchant Bank achieved remarkable milestones. We closed 80 deals across 20 industries, impacting businesses and communities alike. Our expertise and commitment to excellence have made these achievements possible. From groundbreaking mergers to strategic investments, each deal reflects our dedication to driving growth and creating value. 6 trillion in deals, creating value worth over 6 trillion. Our team has demonstrated unparalleled expertise and insights. 20 industries. We've made our mark in 20 diverse industries, from finance to technology and beyond. Driving growth. At Coronation Merchant Bank, we are not just closing deals, You're driving growth and shaping the future.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, bring it up. All right, Business Day is putting together a WhatsApp community where they will share business news, resource, market intelligence. Please, can you put up that banner? All right, please kindly scan this to join the community. You get access to business news, insights, and market resources. Please bring out your phone and scan this. We'll just lead you to directly to the WhatsApp community. Now we're going to proceed to the second panel, and the title of this panel is From Harvest to Market, right? Financing, policy, and food security at scale. And moderating this panel session is none other than Yemisi Iwasomi, Vice President, Credit and Portfolio Management, Sahel Capital. Please give her a round of applause. Yes. So I'd like to briefly introduce Yemisi Iwasomi. Yemisi is a finance and investment professional specializing in private and agricultural finance. At Sahel Capital, she plays a vital role in credit analysis, investment structuring, and portfolio risk management. Our expertise spans finance modeling, due diligence, governance processes, and investment committee documentation, with a strong emphasis in building resilient businesses. EMC is committed to advancing responsible, impact-driven investment strategies that drive sustainable growth and strengthen Africa's agricultural and food sectors. Please give her a round of applause. Now, joining this panel, very briefly, I'm calling on Mr. Kudzai Gumoyu. Hello, sir. Good day, sir. Welcome. He is the Divisional Head, Agribusiness and Non-Oil Export at FCMB. Please give him a round of applause. Welcome, Mr. Kudzai. Also, I would also be calling a pioneer in this space, African Farmer Mortgagee. Sir, good day. Welcome. He's the CEO of Agbado Value Chain Limited. Please give him a round of applause. All right. And also be calling Kobin Jane Akinrele, founder of Ake Collective. Please give a round of applause. Welcome. Also, we would like to hear from Chinedu Obiano, Managing Director, Safari CC Limited. Please give a round of applause, Chinedu. Chinedu would like to hear more about how you were able to implement this wonderful agricultural process. Welcome. I'll also be calling up on stage Uche Bossa, Group Head, Corporate Banking, Coronation Merchant Bank. Please give her a round of applause as she comes on stage. Over to you, MC.
Okay, thank you very much. Are we still in the morning? Okay, good afternoon all. And it's been very interesting listening to the first panel. And I think this is also very interesting to farmers and practitioners in the room. We're talking about financing, and one of the things I would like to do is focus more on the guys who are financing, so that you can also get that perspective. I think we've had the perspective of what the challenges are for farmers, what the challenges are for processors, and even though we also still have processors who will speak to that, we'll focus more on financing so that we can also get that perspective. So I'll start with Mr. Kudza Gumi. Apologies. So ensuring food security requires large-scale investment across the agricultural ecosystem. What role should commercial banks play in mobilizing capital for agriculture while managing the sector risk?
Mobilizing resources for the agri ecosystem for banks is your money, depositors' money that we use to give to farmers and anyone in the value chain. So the value chain comes in the form of primary production, those that are into processing, those that supply the inputs, those that are into manufacturing, even exports, as well as those that actually trade in the commodities that the farmers have. So as banks, when we say when we mobilize the resources from depositors, remember farmers are also competing with other sectors in the economy. So it has to make sense for the banks, it has to make sense for the farmers. Everyone in the agri value chain has to be profitable. Otherwise, we'll have an issue where if there are cases where the banks are making losses out of lending to farmers, you find that the banks will not want to be giving money to farmers. And we have seen that doing it traditionally, it's a tried, tested, and failed system. Africa needs to be innovative. I think you have heard Kola Masha talk here about his journey. He did not do things the traditional way. We had to innovate. As a bank, we had to come in and advise him on how he can actually expand his business. And because the bank is making money out of Kola Masha is making money out of the farmers are making money out of the whole system. And processors are also finding it easier to get maize from Babangona. The whole system becomes easier, and it's also easier for us to mobilize more resources. I can give, for instance, because of the good work that he has done, we are seeing a lot other players coming in to assist the bank to mobilize more resources to expand. The likes of MasterCard Foundation, FMO, a lot of organizations, IFC, they are coming now to assist us expand the business that Kola Masha is doing. It's easier when everybody in the value chain is profitable. And as banks, we also have to do risk mitigation. If there is failure, the money that you are giving to us to own land has to be safe. So we having partners, we having companies where there is now risk mitigation through guarantees, the likes of Nasira guarantees from FMO. We had one from USAID. Of course, I'm not sure whether it's still in existence, given what has happened in the US. But I would want to say, in Nigeria in particular, you cannot avoid a structure that excludes smallholder farmers. There are about 40 million smallholder farmers in Nigeria. There are 40 million farmers in Nigeria, and 38 million are considered smallholder farmers. And that represents about 95% of farmers. And these have got structural effects. They are in very remote areas, difficult to reach, network, logistics. It's all a problem that needs to be solved. And you cannot do it the traditional way. You need partners like the likes of Babangona, the likes of Soul Tree, who we can give the money to. It becomes easier for the bank to give money to a single entity, and the farmers also open accounts with the bank, and it's a win-win situation for all of us. So innovation is one of the things that we as institutions need to also do to enable us to mobilize much resources for farmers.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for that insight. I'd like to speak to, I'd like to bring on the African farmer. I'd like to direct my next question to him. Please pass. Thank you. Access to finance is often limited for farmers and value chain operators. What financing models have you seen that have worked?
Okay. Well, it's not a popular one, but I've seen it work if we work it properly. And what I call crowd production, not crowdfunding. Slight difference. Crowd production means there's a massive land with infrastructure where different people cultivate or fund that, which is different from crowdfunding where I give you money, you give me profit. I've seen it work sustainably. We've implemented many to grow many fresh crops. You know, in Nigeria, it's easy for the banks, however committed they are. FCMB is one of the most committed banks in the country. But when it comes to fresh farm produce, the risk is high. Okay, so naturally, because it's depositors' funds, they can't take that risk also, you know. So with fresh produce, you're still not finding any financial institution funding fresh produce because of the risk. But however, we've run models that we run it 50-50. We bring the input, you know, not cash. We have extension agents working together, irrigation facilities. So we mitigate that risk by having irrigation facility, mostly federal. I've leveraged government infrastructure in about 3 decades. So that way, you know, we take out almost all the risk and we can move to market. And one of the models, we don't have established structured markets, so to speak, formal structured markets, because most financial institutions would ask you to get suppliers, what's it called again? Yeah, you know, but you won't get that. You know, is this somebody in Mile 12 who is not learned that will give you his account statement or write a document? No, they bring the produce itself. It's high risk, but it's high profit also. So I've specialized in the fresh maize value chain, unlike a caller who has mastered that. And by the way, we learned a lot from what he has done. You know, it's good. One thing we should all understand is give honor to whom honor is due, and also learn from people instead of repeating cycles. So we've seen a few mistakes, no, learning curves that they've evolved through. We've also gone through as merged it together. So there are a lot of hybrid models, but funding farmers and with inputs aggregated in one location, locations where there's proximity to logistics, where you can co-transport together. Inputs, you can get the right kind of inputs. You know, I've known also Job for a while. He's one of the biggest breeders in the country that doesn't make noise. So get used to relationships, fund the inputs, and get markets. Urban market like in Lagos is huge. Most of the fresh corn we eat in Lagos is hard. The farmers don't produce it hard. The farmers produce it soft, but the market is for bricklayers, bus conductors who want to eat on the go. So they don't produce the corn for you. So sell in estates and co, and end to end, you know, you secure investment. So that is what co-production, producing together rather than the crowdfunding has really worked and is still working.
Very, very innovative. Thank you so much for sharing. I think I can go to Uche now. Uche. Oh, so sorry. Okay, she's the next on mine. I think I'm with Jane now, right? Yeah. Okay. So I wanted to ask, Ake Collective works closely with smallholder farmers, many of whom are women. What are the biggest barriers preventing these farmers from fully integrating into structured value chains and accessing reliable markets?
Awesome. I think I'm going to be a bit controversial. People assume that it's lack of information. It's not. It's because our aggregators, of whom some of you are in this room, are inconsistent. So someone will say to a local government chairman, "I'm coming to your village. I will buy everything. Just grow soybeans. I'll buy everything." And then 2 weeks go by, 3 weeks go by, 4 weeks go by. Nobody buys. Nobody shows up. And what we don't realize is that it means next year, if a different company comes, if a different trader comes, they're not going to listen. People are not stupid, right? So they will grow what they know they will have a market for. I find that we are so as a people, we're really innovative, we're really passionate about making money. Nigerians are known, right, for being very hardworking, but we also like trends. So when hibiscus is raining, everybody runs to hibiscus and everybody says, "I know a village, I have a brother, I have a cousin." And then you tell them, "Oh, grow zobo, I'll buy everything, I'll send it to Mexico." But you don't know the requirements. You don't know a buyer. All you know is that someone made plenty money, bought a G-Wagon using Zobo, so you too want to do it. And then what you don't realize is that you damage the confidence in that community. And then next time, if someone else comes that's actually legitimate, the village head will say no. And it keeps happening, it keeps happening. It was Zobo, it was coffee, it was shea, it was coconuts. It doesn't matter what area you're talking about. And I think that's the biggest hindrance to access to market. Another thing is that sometimes the infrastructure just isn't there. So we work in Taraba, Bauchi, and Plateau State. And last year in Southern Plateau, there is a bridge. Every year, I don't know if it's a spirit, that bridge crumbles. We all know it crumbles. The local government knows that every year during raining season, the bridge is unmotorable. So why should a trader, why should a company, why should a a commodities exchange waste their money trying to get to that village to buy produce when they know it's not going to be motorable? If it was up to me, I'd just go to Kanu. That's the reality of things. So several people are completely cut off from the market because the infrastructure just isn't there. I would say, though, to round up my point, if you are consistent, we will find a way, right? So last year when we did share in the middle of the raining season, even with the bridge falling down, even with insecurity, even with lots of rumors that there were bandits in certain areas, we told the women in a certain community in Southern Plateau State that we're going to come every Thursday. And every Thursday we'll take all the share nuts that you can harvest and process. And they said, "Are you sure?" I said, "Yes." The first Thursday we went, 2 people came with 1 mudu of shea nuts. Someone else came with a handful. It was very embarrassing. And my operations manager said, "Oh, I think we've made a mistake." I said, "No, the following week we'll go again." The second week, we had 5 people show up, 1 with a sack. Somebody else came with 2 mudus, 3 mudus, 4 mudus. By week 4, we had a gentleman called Mr. Musa. He arranged his whole community. He said we're all going to do share nuts together. We had a convoy of okadas, of kekes, of mini buses. They made it work. We didn't have to pre-finance anyone. All I said is, I'm going to show up every Thursday and I'm going to buy. And before you leave today, the money will enter your account and you'll see the bank alert. And because I said that and because I was consistent, they did what they had to do. They made it work, right? I've seen situations where everybody will get out of the car, they'll push the truck with the nuts inside, then jump back in the car because they know they're going to get paid. So people will do the work and people will be more than willing to partner with you as long as you're consistent and you're actually going to buy when you say you're going to buy.
Thank you so much. Okay, so I'll go with Chinedu now. And my question is, technology is increasingly transforming agriculture from digital market places to supply chain tracking, which innovations do you believe have the most potential to improve market access for farmers?
Okay. First, I'd like to thank Business Day for the opportunity to be on this panel. When we talk about innovation and access to market, what comes to mind is a digital platform linking buyers to the farm on a screen. Does that really work? Has any processor used that? I've tried to use it, but I can't see myself going ahead with that because it's not just about market access, but market acceptability, the acceptability of the product. What's the quality? Because I think to myself, if I order a truckload of cassava, how am I sure that I'm going to get 50% utilization from that source? And I would have paid, even if it's pay on delivery, and the farmer brings it. So what happens? I don't want that headache on me, right? So if we have technology that combines physical infrastructure, right, with coordinated digital imprints, then we're sure of the quality of the produces. For example, it's not just enough to say I have such metric tons of food products in a place. Technologies around pre-processing, around storage, around logistics that guarantee standardization somewhat and the quality. So when you say such product is available, what parameters do they have? What's the moisture content? What's the starch content, depending on the crop? What's the protein content? All of that. So if we have technology around that, it will be most impactful. So I'll just say the most impactful innovations are those that make agricultural value chain predictable, traceable, and quality driven.
Thank you. And I think that's what us as financiers are also looking for. If the cash flow is sustainable, we will finance, right? And so is the market there? I think that's the first question you ask when we get a deal. Is the market there? Will they continue to buy? Will the farmer continue to be able to supply? And when you can ascertain that, then financing would flow. Thank you so much. Help me give it to Uche. So I'll just say, considering some of the challenges that you've heard from both processors and those trying to harness finance to, to be able to support and spur what we are trying to do in the agri sector. As a merchant bank practitioner, how would you look at raising affordable funds that can help drive what we're trying to do in the agri sector?
Okay, thank you for this opportunity. Okay, so for us in the merchant banking space, we deal with typically tailor-made transactions. So there's the impression, which is not wrong, that we play in the top end of the market. So what we've seen and what we see is in playing at the top end of the market, obviously we then have to look at ways to maximize our own profit as well, because we're trading both with depositors' funds as well as funds from various people that we partner with. So we do typically blended finance as well. We bring in such blended finance transactions. So in terms of profitability, what we look at is in terms of like exporters, a lot of them who procure locally and all of that. We partner with offshore DFIs and all of that to get affordable financing to maximize profit. Now, if we look at it from the point of view of getting dollar-denominated financing, it's most certainly single digits. So what we then do is try to bridge the gap in terms of looking at hedging FX risks and all of that, and that is where Treasury comes in. Now, in most commercial banks, you have corporate banking, you have investment banking, you have private and affluent banking, and then you have Treasury. Now, in investment banking, that's where you have the capital raise. So where we raise CPs and all of that. CPs are typically cheaper sources of funds as opposed to core on lending from the banks. And that's where we also come in. Because by the time we raise funds through CP raises and all of that, you know, the, how do I put it now? The cost comes in at sub 20, as opposed to core lending from banking, where you're looking at funding close to 30%, which obviously throws you know, the farmers off in terms of their own profitability, because in the final analysis it has to be profitable for both sides. So while we try to fund from offshore sources, cheap funding from offshore, we also raise capital from the public via CPRs, and that way there's that you know, blend in terms of profitability on both sides. Yeah.
Fantastic. How low have you been? I want to know how, in terms of interest rates, what's the lowest you've been able to achieve with this structure?
Okay, so if we're looking at it from, you know, offshore funding, dollar denominated, we look at it sub 10, so like 8.5, 9, thereabouts. But as you know, we have to look at it on a case by case basis. So we look at it based on capacity. But I will say eventually everybody across the value, well, not necessarily everybody, but a lot of practitioners across the value chain tend to benefit, because in the end, some of these large corporates that you see are they are off takers from some of these, you know, smaller scale farmers. So in the end, I mean, it impacts across the chain. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I think if you could just clap for my panelists, they've been able to dish out a lot of information here. So I think we'll take questions from the audience now, if you have questions. Okay.
Yeah, thank you very much. So I'll quickly rush through. First, from the presentation of DG, he mentioned one thing. If we are to make headway, we need to drop down the production cost. Fine. Then there was something that the Mr. Kola also mentioned. He mentioned that they already had a working model, and FCMB came in, which means the solution we are looking for is not coming from the commercial banks. You find your solution, then the commercial banks come in for scale. And looking at what flour mills also mentioned, they are developing seeds, they are developing, and they also have their own fertilizer. Now that calls to question that, look, if we are to actually make headway, then the investment needs to go into the people that are providing the solutions. So if I have the EOP for my cultivation of maize now, and I need to look at my seeds. Oh, seeds is 1,000 naira. How do I bring it down to 500 naira? It's not finance that will do that. It's maybe some support finance in R&D that brings that down. Okay, your NPK or your fertilizer is at this cost. How do you bring it down? Okay, let's even go into, because we are talking about crops, let's go into the other side, like the aquaculture. I think the brood stock that they have been using in the aquaculture in the country has been in here for decades. How do you actually bring in much more improved ones so that you can actually have, you know, because the farmers, they will use inefficient brood stock and they will still use efficient, expensive feed. You have feed that's a fish that is like maybe 3,000 naira per kilo and another fish that is 20,000 naira per kilo using the same. So many of these things that we want to use finance to solve, it calls for investment in R&D in this. So the question now is, how do we get proper finance, or who and who, or is it tax breaks that government or tax cuts or whatever it is that will be given to the right enterprises and everything that can also do this R&D to provide these things? We know people like flour mills have enough money, but it's how do we just get this support for R&D to help us drop down production cost? Thank you.
So I think I'll give the mic.
Thank you for pointing it out. It's up to the businesses. For us, we try to make sure we give you finance that is competitive, where we make money and you also make money. Research and development is one thing that is very, very critical. If you look at the biggest conglomerates most of them are agriculture, the likes of Monsanto. They have invested a lot of money into research and development, and they are milking it. So, in as much as you are a small business, you need to be continuously improving, producing the best quality out of the maximum quantity of the best quality with the minimum of resources. The moment you are doing that, you are profitable and the business is sustainable. And you are able to compete and outcompete any of your competition. Thank you.
I want to add to that. One thing we need to understand, going out of their way to fund agric. And when you look at the people who are behind the desk, it's the people who are behind the desk, their experience and their exposure. He has a wealth of knowledge with smallholder and everything, and that's why he can convince the bank after a long time for them to begin to try things out. You heard, it's very important we take this away. They started with 101 farmers. It was probably his risk that he took. And now they worked together. So let's pay attention to the fact that go to financial institutions that you have an idea of the people behind the desk who can prove and the organizations can scale. So don't say they are not funding. And banks are not meant to fund research and development. Let's also understand that. Please go to any of the research institutes. Most of this research has already been done like 10, 20 years ago. They are gathering dust. Many times we don't want to go out of our way to get information in Nigeria. Go to research institutes. They've done most of those things and we can dust it and work it out. Don't forget, it's still research. You have to try it out and adapt and adopt before it works. Thank you.
I agree. Thank you so much. I would go even further. Don't look for financing until you have a decent buyer. At all. I started my business in the agri-tech era. There was money everywhere, and everyone was doing lots of really interesting things in research and development and had no buyers. It's the case where if you have a buyer first, whether it's a local buyer, processor, or an international buyer, if you're supplying on a regular basis, there's more than one way to structure the conversation in order for them to pre-finance some research and development. I think when we go down the route of where to find funding, where to find funding, where to find funding, we fail to remember that agribusiness is still a business. It's not charity. Yes, it provides food security, but it's still a business like everything else. When it comes to content creation, entertainment, they're not running and chasing banks all the time to fund them. The reality is people try and make a way first, and then once you've proven that it works, once you have regular income, regular revenue, then you can seek alternative resources. And like you said, research institutes are there, their staff are there half of the time. It's not very busy. People have time. So you always have to find a way, assuming that you have zero cash.
I agree with what other panelists have said. You have to first demonstrate the viability of your solution. But it gets to a point where you need to scale that solution, having proven that it works. There's revenue, there's business. I mean, your statements are there and you need to scale. So now this is my feedback for finance institutions. It's not necessarily the volume of funds, but how the funding is structured. What we really need is value chain financing. I know there's a tendency, you want to protect your fund, you want to be sure it comes back to you. Some areas in the value chain are higher risk. But then until we provide value chain funding, where from your primary production, pre-processing, your funding storage solutions, logistics solutions, processing solutions, and market development at the same time, we're not really going to have a resilient food system. you you know, if the financing solutions are fragmented, then there's a problem, because agriculture really works as as an integrated system. Exactly. So we have to see how to create financial solutions across the value chain. All don't have to have the same interest rate. You could design something across the value chain. Thank you.
I'll take just one more question and then.
Okay, thank you everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Fivo Adelike. I'm the founder of Kiki Farms Global Limited. So before I ask my question, I'd like to ask everyone here, did we have chicken this morning when we had our breakfast? Right, that's very good. So that's to tell you that we're one of the major distributors of chicken to this hotel, and we've been doing that for over 3 years now. We deal with major hotels, restaurants, and supermarket, and currently we do around 50 tons of chicken monthly. Yeah, I'm coming. Thank you. All right. So my question is, we need to crash down the price and cost of our chickens to enable us scale. No, no, I'm coming. I'm actually driving my question somewhere, right? Just to give context, right? So my question is, we would love to really work with Babango Nakola here, to basically help us, with the cost of, we need around 10 trailer loads of maize and 6 trailer load of soya per quarter, right? And if we could have FCMB, to enable us work on that, so we can definitely crash down the cost of what we're doing. The numbers are there, the revenues are there. We do well over 200 million, my question.
So I guess you have a customer.
To connect Kola here, who has one of the biggest producers of maize in the country currently, and have FCMB to merge together. We come together, the three of us, to see how we can basically reduce the cost of chicken compared to what is being imported or smuggled to the country. The volume is over 300, 500 million monthly, and we have these numbers. So if we could work together, we have a working model. We do around 50 tons of chicken monthly. I can give you all the numbers, right? So you tend to understand what I'm trying to say. So if we could come together, we can find a way to really scale what we're doing and crash down the prices, so we can empower more farmers and have more people employed. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think that comment is for the networking session, not necessarily that we need to. I think he has identified a problem, and before I give the phone, I said the microphone to Uche so she can give the final remarks. Let me just say a bit of what Sahel Capital does. We focus mainly on just agric across Africa, and some of the things we try to do is both finance, equity, and debt, such that we help farmers at different, not farmers really, processors at different levels. And recently we also launched a 0% loan, which is around $50,000, that we can give to upcoming companies that want to grow. It's no interest at all, and it's just to prepare for investor readiness. And I think that a lot is happening around VCs. I just wanted to respond to what Chinedu said about having financing solutions across. I think there are, both for at every stage you are, whether you're at pre-seed or at seed stage or whatever levels you are. And I think it's important for us as practitioners to get more knowledge. Someone asked me once, he said, what's the biggest problem you see in the agri sector? And I think it's technical expertise. We all need to grow, from the financiers to those who are on the field to the farmer. We need to grow in knowledge, and that's something we don't concentrate on. We concentrate on access to finance, what the government is not doing. But I think the focus now is what we should be doing as private sector, and bringing the power back to us in the private sector, because the truth is, if we're going to wait for the government, we're going to wait for a very long time. So we need to take that back, because there's a lot of money to be made in agric, and it's just about us having the level of knowledge that is required to solve problems, because that's what's going to happen. Even if I bring finance into your business, there will be challenges. When there are challenges, how strong are you to wait through? So I think on that note, I'll give the mic to Uche to give the final comment.
Thank you very much. Okay, so on a final note, I'll just say a bit about Coronation Merchant Bank. Um, we started business over 10 years ago. We are a high-performing merchant bank. Our business, just as I said earlier, is tailored across corporate and investment banking, private and affluent banking, and global markets and treasury. And we work together to grow businesses of our clients. I manage the agric, general commerce, aviation and hospitality. And we've worked with quite a number of, farmers and players in the agric sector. We handle both export finance as well as, we help with, working capital across various practitioners. And we also partner with foreign investors as well. And we, harness, we synergize and ensure that, businesses grow and we grow with the businesses as well. We've signed on people who over time started small, and we've been able to raise funds via commercial papers and all of that. And by doing that, we've also grown those businesses. And today, some of them are accessing funds directly from offshore. So all in all, we're here, and we're here to grow the business of agriculture. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Please give them a round of applause. Such wonderful session. I'm sure we all learned something very important because the market actually determines it, and finance is also plays a major role in ensuring that we can get from seed to feed. All right, I'd like to call on, yes, I know. I'd like to call on Mr. Ololade also to join the photo session, and as well, we have the privilege of having the Executive Director, Sales and Marketing, BusinessDay Media Limited, Mrs. Ijoma Ude. Please join the photo session. Thank you very much. Okay. Okay. Okay, so I also would like to have for another photo session all our partners and sponsors, representatives from Safari Foods, LBS. Please, we would also like to have Mr. Lolade and Mrs. Ijoma also up on the stage. Representative from Coronation Merchant Bank, FCMB. Yes, so far. We'd also like to have representative of Golden Agri. Are you here? Yeah, no problem. No problem. Yes, please. So while they're at it, we have a gift for anybody that is going to answer my question. We have a gift. All right. So I have a question and a gift for anyone who's willing to attempt. Who is the CEO of Eden Foods? The person that took the first panel session. Please, can you kindly give him the mic? Favor. No, no looking. No. Please, can you give him the mic?
My name is Onwadi Ozioma, CEO of Eden Foods. Thank you.
Okay, where of the game want to try? Okay. Yes. Very tough question.
I know his first name is Michael, Mr. Michael.
Okay. Not sure you got that. One more trial. Okay. One day and one year.
Oh, her name is Ozioma Onwodi.
All right. Thank you. One last question, one last attempt.
Her name is Ozioma Okaibu Onwadi.
All right, thank you very much. So, the CEO of Eden O Foods actually have a gift for the three people that got it. Yes, indeed, her name is Ozioma Owodi. You can get to that is you, ma'am, and Favor, right? Can get to the registration desk to pick up your gift. Thank you very much. Also, in way of announcements, Business Day is building a WhatsApp community where you get access to business news, insights, market intelligence. We'd like you to scan this QR code to join the WhatsApp community so you can have access to tools and resources that can help you make strategic decisions. Please scan the QR code here. Also, we would like to acknowledge the presence of the Secretary General of All Farmers Association of Nigeria. Thank you so much, sir, for being here with us. Thank you.
In 2023 and 2024, Coronation Merchant Bank achieved remarkable milestones. We closed 80 deals across 20 industries, impacting businesses and communities alike. Our expertise and commitment to excellence have made these achievements possible. From groundbreaking mergers to strategic investments, each deal.
Thank you so much. I did make a promise when I was giving the opening speech on behalf of Mr. Frank Aigbogun, the publisher, that the publisher of Business Day, of course, that we're in for really exciting conversations this morning. And I think that the lineup of panelists that we've had today did not disappoint. I think it was a good, for me, I learned a lot. We're very much aware of the challenges in the agriculture sector, right? But I guess today one important thing that also came to the fore were solutions to some of those challenges, and it's important for us. I remember that someone did mention that she was a bit surprised that business is prioritizing agriculture over maybe say banking or finance and the likes. But the truth is, agriculture contributes the most to our GDP, right, at about 25%. So it's an important sector to really pay attention to. It's also the biggest creator of jobs in Nigeria. So if agriculture succeeds, the Nigerian economy succeeds as well. And I think that the conversations that we have had today will be really important in terms of just moving the sector even forward and ensuring that it is able to fulfill its full potential. So thank you so much for coming. I'm sure that you had a great time listening to our speakers. I would also like to take the opportunity to thank our sponsors. If I can have the brochure. So first is our technical partners, Sahel Consulting, and then of course our partners from Golden Penny, Golden Agri Inputs, FCMB, Coronation, and Safari Foods. Of course, I can't leave out the Lagos Business School as well. So thank you so much. And I should also say this before I leave, because I mean, if I don't do this, it would be such a shame on my part. I think it's important to also talk about the Business Day Premium platform. As you know, we're perhaps the only media company. I like to say we're a media company because we're more than a newspaper these days. You just need to look at the array of products that we have, from podcasts to videos, and you know that Business Day is far more than just a newspaper. So I'd like to just talk about our premium subscription. We offer quality insights about what's happening in the economy. We help you connect the dots. We make the sense of government policies and the likes to ensure that you as business owners, whatever sector you might find yourself, from agri to finance, to manufacturing as well, to ensure that you're able to make the most of the changing tide in the Nigerian economy today. So I would like to make an appeal to you, if you're not already a subscriber, that on your way out, you'll find one of our staff or two at the desk outside. Please fill a simple form and, come on board so that you can stay ahead of the curve. Thank you so much, and I wish you safe journeys back to your various destinations. Thank you.